Hello YouTube. Welcome back to Bald Man Building an Airplane. This is section 28, part 8. Continuing the heat vents. So this is heat vents video part 2. This is a little bit out of order, but not terribly. And I only mean that because like this assembly video, I'm starting to assemble like what attaches to the heat vent, but it's more still have to build the whole thing out. There's a little bit of work you can do. It's optional. Some people don't use the piece as a spacer. That was part of like the template that Vans had you make. But I wanted to use a spacer so that way it could, close right. So we're going to cut over to real-time Ryan here to talk about the spacer situation. All right, so there's something I read that's quite important. The instructions tell me to disregard the bottom half of this. Okay. Now look at this. This is the heat vent, and this is where it opens and closes from the inside. More on the engine side. Do you see a gap in there? No? I mean, ever so slight, right? Ever so slight. Now, watch this. We're going to take and discard that bottom template piece. So, I'm going to take that out. See, here it is. It's coming out. And we're going to put a Cleco back in there. Alright, so same thing, I just took the little thing out the bottom. Now watch. Because of that, see that, it's hard to see now. Well, okay, well, hard to get on camera, but there's about 1/8 of an inch gap. Now, actually you can see it right, see the light peeking through there. So, I'm going to put that template back in there so that this thing actually doesn't bind on the hinge. And I can actually have cold or non-heated feet. So that's the big deal. Heat in an airplane, if you've never been in a small general aviation aircraft, is produced by a little wrapper thing that goes around the exhaust. And it's forced air from the speed of the airplane. It's generally very hot. And if you don't want it, you really don't want it. Or if you don't need it, you really don't want it at all. So, yeah, that's why I took the extra time like to think that through. And I think it was on Vans Air Force, or maybe it was on Slack or something, that someone was like, hey, the vents tend to bind sometimes on the hinge. And so I took a while to think about it and looked at it and, took the advice that I read. And yeah, maybe they're supposed to bind a little bit on the hinge, but I would prefer a more free-moving vent. Free-moving flap there. I don't know what you want to call that, vent door. Than having unintentional heat in the airplane. I'm sure you could, hold it back with some sort of sealant or something like that. But why not just make the metal-to-metal contact better? So hopefully that'll do it. And hopefully I didn't make a mistake. If I did, I'll just pull the engine back off, add an annual, and read it. No, I'll just deal with it or somehow figure out how to seal them up in the summertime or something. I don't know. We'll see. Let's just hope I made the right decision on that one. So this is the battery box. This will mount to the front of the firewall. And I will be installing, I believe, an EarthX ETX 1200 in that box. This battery box was kind of a pain in the butt to make. Or I'm sorry, not make. Vans made it to like prep for fit because the just the getting the rivets in there countersunk, or rather the holes countersunk for flush rivets so that a battery would fit, kind of ridiculous. There was a lot of in you can't use a countersink cage, so basically I had just used a deburring cutter and essentially countersunk using that. And then I'm also using the back rivet gun with a bucking bar in front to attach this to the firewall because you can't get a flush rivet set in the front. So, yeah, that's it for this one. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time for the end of Chapter 28.